Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Curator Night. A couple of quick housekeeping items. Please note that we have our ASL interpreter. And then also you'll be able to see our live transcript down at the bottom of the feed. So welcome to Curator Night, Bridging the Disability and Art Communities. My name's Chris Norline. I'm the Director of Development and Communications here at the Arc Baltimore. I'll be your host. My pronouns are he, his, him. And I'm a tall gentleman seated with light-colored glasses in my office, full of plenty of artwork from our upcoming Art in the Round event. And tonight's event is part of our larger Art in the Round event to be held on October 13th at 6:30. We hope that many of you watching us this evening will join us. You can purchase tickets and learn more about the event at thearcbaltimore.org/art. Including artist profile videos, a virtual gallery of the exhibition, an opportunity to bid on the art that starts this Monday, October 9th, purchased a Toast to Tuscany raffle ticket for a trip to Italy, and lastly, you can donate or create your own fundraiser for our mission appeal. We want to thank our title event patron, Scientific Plant Service, a longtime supporter of the Arc Baltimore. They're presenting our Art in the Round event this year. And thank you to our top patrons, CFG Bank Arena, Charm City Frameworks, 10 Oaks Homes, Renai James Healthcare Advisors, Total Wine and More, Wegmans, and Whiting Turner. So we have an exciting hour of discussion that will not disappoint. So let's jump right in. We're fortunate to have 4 prominent art leaders with us here tonight. Each curator chose a piece of artwork from our Art in the Round exhibit and will discuss their selection tonight. Afterward, the group will share the diversity, equity, access, and inclusion initiatives at their respective institutions. Lastly, our friend and panelist, George Sissel, will lead a discussion regarding the importance of always including access as part of the diversity, equity, and inclusion discussion, particularly in the art community. So first off is Rhea Beckett. Rhea Beckett is an artist, curator, and arts administrator with an extensive performing and visual arts background. She co-founded the Black Artist Research Space, BARS, a Baltimore-based creative collective and incubator, and has served in various roles at the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities, the Howard University Art Collection, and C. Grimaldis Gallery. Rhea earned her BS in art from Fisk University and her MFA in curatorial practice from MICA. Please note that you can find the full bios of all of our curators on our event website. Rhea, welcome. Tell us why you selected Blooming Flower by Gregory Bannister.
Hello, again, my name is Rhea Beckett. I use she, her pronouns. I am wearing a black button-down shirt with the first button unbuttoned, small hoop earrings, and my hair is pulled back in a bun, but I think the contrast with the background, you can't really tell. And excited to be here. Thank you so much, George Sissel, for the invitation, and thank you, Chris, for being such a welcoming host. I hope that folks will be able to hear me as I'm having some voice trouble this morning. Gregory's vibrant and colorful abstract artwork depicting a vase filled with flowers is a testament to his skill as a painter and his deep appreciation for the modernist painters who have influenced his work, such as Picasso and Matisse. I was drawn to the painting's composition and use of color, clearly echoing the bold and innovative styles of these iconic artists. Matisse's influence is evident in the way Gregory employs bold, contrasting colors to create a sense of energy and movement in the painting. The vibrant yellow background is reminiscent of Matisse's use of bold color to convey emotion and capture the essence of a scene. Matisse was also known for his ability to infuse his paintings with a sense of joy and optimism, and I think that Gregory's choice of bright colors here certainly achieves a similar effect. Meanwhile, Picasso's influence can be seen in the abstract shapes and patterns that adorn the vase. Picasso was considered a master of abstraction and cubist art, often breaking down objects into their geometric forms. In this painting, the intricate swirls and lines on the vase hint at Picasso's influence as they abstractly convey the vase's form while adding a layer of complexity that really draws out the depth of the composition. Hopefully, upon closer inspection, the surface of the painting reveals a rich tactile quality. The background, again, painted with this warm yellow, has a smooth and velvety texture that invites the viewers to run their fingers across it, almost as if it were bathed in the soft glow of sunlight. The smooth backdrop serves as a perfect contrast to the more intricate and textured elements in the foreground. The choice to paint lilies is also reminiscent of Matisse's and Picasso's fascination with nature as a subject matter. Both artists often employed or explored the beauty of flowers in their work, and Gregory's inclusion of these vibrant blooms adds a sense of vitality and freshness to the painting. Again, the texture of Gregory's painting plays a vital role in enhancing the overall visual and sensory experience. As you approach the artwork, the texture becomes more apparent, adding depth and dimension to the composition. That might have been a bit repetitive, so if we cut that part. Moving to, or should I finish, or is time, or?
Yeah, it's up to you.
Okay, sure. Moving to the flowers, their petals and centers are rendered with a delicate impasto technique. This technique involves applying thick layers of paint to create a three-dimensional texture. The petals of the lilies seem to emerge from the canvas, giving them a lifelike quality that encourages viewers to imagine the softness of their petals. Overall, Gregory's artwork combines the spirit of Matisse's joyous color palette with Picasso's abstract exploration of form, resulting in a modern and energetic painting that captivates the viewer. It certainly captivated me. It's a beautiful tribute to their artistic legacy, the artistic legacy of these two masters, while also reflecting Gregory's unique talent and dedication to his craft.
Perfect. And one of the exciting things that I'm so glad you selected this piece is that Gregory will be painting live at the event on October 13th. And to see Gregory paint is something that I've had the opportunity of witnessing, and he just lights up like a light bulb. And it's just amazing to see. So I'm excited that others will get to see him next weekend. So thank you, Ria. That was wonderful. So next up is, move this forward, is Schroeder Cherry. Schroeder Cherry is an artist and 2019 Sondheim competition finalist who captures everyday scenes of African diaspora life. His works are found in private and public collections across the US. He has also performed puppetry in museums, cultural centers, libraries, and schools across the US. He earned a bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan, a master's degree from George Washington University, and a doctorate from Columbia University. Over a span of 40 years, Schroeder has worked in 7 US museums, has held senior grant maker positions, taught graduate museum studies at Morgan State University, and in 2021 was appointed curator of the James E. Lewis Museum of Art. Schroeder, welcome. You selected Museum of People by Uriel Levitt. Can you tell us why you like this painting?
Sure. Thank you, Chris. I'm really happy to be here and have this opportunity to look at some really inspiring pieces of works of art. I have to say that when I went through the selections, I was looking at the titles, and because I am a museum person and have a museum background, the title of this piece is Museum of People. And I thought, well, let me check this out and see what it is. In my mind, it doesn't do anything in terms of referencing me to a museum per se, but it is a very sensuous piece, and that's what drove me in. The watercolor paint-like textile surfaces are very subtle and rich. So at the bottom, you have an area that is a black wash with black lines. In the middle area, you have colors that are still muted on either side. They are yellow. On the bottom, there's a kind of a reddish fence or gate. And behind that, you have a green area. Above that, you have an open space, which can be read a couple of different ways. It can either be read as looking from inside an interior, if you are inside of a room and looking through the window over a balcony with a shade at the top, Or you could read it as being outdoors and walking on a boardwalk, looking at a fence, and the side pieces could be pathways going off into the distance. It is rich because there is so much information, but the markings I find delightful because they're so simplistic. It reminds me of a few things. It reminds me of sumi painting, brush painting, the Japanese paintings, where you use different strokes to make your marks and to tell a story. It also reminds me of the paintings that I saw of Haitian painters that were capturing views from the balcony of windows of little villas looking out into the ocean, the oceanscape. The green area to me looks more like land than ocean, but it does look like a wide open space. And there is a foreground, a middle ground, and in the background, there's a wide distance. Because he uses these very simplistic shapes, you can tell this you can make a narrative on your own. And I do think that there are also influences by artists that we see frequently. Matisse is one of them. He uses these types of brushstrokes. Caribbean painters also use these types of brushstrokes in telling a story. And that's what drew me in. But I kept coming back to the title, and I tried to look for a museum. Where's the museum? Where are the people? Because it's a museum of people. That reminded me that you don't have to be stuck on titles. An artist can title a painting any way that they want to do it, and it is open to the imagination. You see lines that are more architectural, and then the middle ground where the green area is, you see the markings that can be more referencing foliage, I think. And in the top area, I would say, to me, looks like a shade that's pulled halfway down over a window. And that's what drew me into this piece.
Thank you, Schroeder. That was wonderful. So let's keep moving. The next curator is Tyrone Whedon. Tyrone, an artist affiliated with Make Studio, recalls developing his artistic talent in elementary school. Television, cartoons, movies, and comic books strongly influenced his current artwork. He often reflects on his childhood in his work, and he often creates pieces with a political statement. He particularly likes to make art about people he sees in Baltimore or just thinks up in his head. My favorite thing about, or Tyrone says, my favorite thing about art is working hard and having commitment. I want to be the best artist possible, learn from my mistakes, and become stronger. Tyrone is a graduate of Clifton Eastern High School, and Tyrone selected Golden Buddha by Andrew Pope. So Tyrone, tell us a bit more about your reaction to this piece.
Okay. Jewelry, so much jewelry top to bottom on this place. It's all about gold. And I think of rags to riches struggles in life. The jewelry got successful and being rich. This is the Golden Buddha. The Buddha is a treasure itself, a monument that is seen all over Asia. To me, Buddha represents meditation, peace, wisdom. It is one of the wisest monuments in the world. It is worshipped. The Buddhas is really carefully done, like worship with all the jewelry and head chain, all of those jewels, all those gems had to be put on it carefully at the end, so throughout. It has golden collage lines around the face, and the flower in the right-hand corner is a lotus. The lotus connects with the idea of story 2. It blooms beautiful for the mud. It is beautiful in bloom. Finding in the piece comes with the Golden Buddha. Life is all about rising up and looking inward. Not about being rich. You have to find peace within yourself to become successful. Wisdom is inside. We had to be careful when we use and talk about symbols from other cultures, though. It's important to avoid racial stereotypes that can be offensive and disrespectful. Thinking about color, the blue around the Buddha and the lotus is positive and light to me. It makes me think of the purest, most beautiful skies and searching for something brighter. That's it.
That's great. Thank you, Tyrone.
Mhm.
The Andrew's pieces are very large. And when framed, they're just really, really beautiful pieces to see live. So I'm looking forward for you to seeing this at the event. He really, really does a nice job. And the fact that you hinted or you commented about the intricacies of the gems and the pieces, like you'll really see it up close. It'll look really nice. So thank you. So finally, our friend George Sissel, who's been instrumental in bridging the Arc Baltimore and many of the people we support with various Baltimore art institutions to explore and create art. Through his partnership, he's built lasting friendships with many artists with disabilities from the Arc through his participation in the many group visits to the BMA, MICA, the Walters, School 33, Baltimore Clayworks, and many more institutions. George Sissel, the curator in residence emeritus at MICA, has mounted groundbreaking exhibitions and taught courses in the fine arts and humanities for close to 50 years. He founded and directed the Contemporary as well as the Exhibition Development Seminar, Curatorial Studies Concentration, and MFA in Curatorial Practice at MICA. George selected River by Lewis Middleton. George, why did you select this piece?
Well, thank you. And thank you for my colleagues in participating in this today. My name is George Sissel. I use he in pronouns. I'm a senior with glasses and short hair and a beard and wearing a red, gold, blue, and striped shirt. So it was very difficult in terms of the submissions this year. Each year the submissions get better and better and more difficult to choose one's favorite. And so it was wonderful to see that Schroeder and Tyrone and Rhea, the works that they selected, because they were on my top list also. So in terms of ranking things, so they were really very high up there. I'm not just saying that because again, I've had the privilege to work every year to work with the jury on selecting the works that then we choose our favorite. So that's sort of the disclaimer right off the bat about what I chose. And the other part is that I have the advantage, I guess, also of I've been following this artist's work for about 5 or 6 years. He has submitted art and around before. I've seen his work at Make Studio and in exhibitions that he's been in, and the work that Lewis typically does is portraitures of very famous people, of movie stars, of famous musicians, or even presidents, right? And so this is how people know his work for the most part, of these portraits from popular culture, right? But he has this other part of his practice of these sort of epic landscapes that he does in his work, and many times they have cities in the foreground or in the background. But this one, the river was very unique, so it stood out right away to me. Matter of fact, at first, before looking at the title, I thought it was a highway. I thought it was a highway going into the distance, into the mountains in the distance. And then I started to look at all the different elements of it and realizing like the clouds in the skies were being reflected in what I thought originally, before I looked at the title, and I thought was a road. And then I thought, no, this is not a road. This is water reflecting something. And it was, to me, it was reflecting the clouds above it. And then, of course, once I realized that really was the subject matter, then I understood much better in terms of on the left and right, on the sort of the green grass, in terms of these trees and the blades of grass that he illustrates on both sides that sort of frame the river and be the border of the river there, right? But most importantly to me, I love the fact that normally one would expect the sky to be what separates the river and the land, right? But what he's done here instead, he's added this whole strip of this sort of what we might call a mountain range. Maybe I say it's a mountain range because of its peaks and how it meanders across the horizon there and the brown color, right? But I just love that that is sort of what's separating the landscape in the front to the sky is this mountain range, which becomes sort of this abstract zigzag horizontal across. And the other thing that appealed to me once I really looked at it even more carefully is how when you look at the clouds, not just that reflecting into the river, but that he's taken this blue sky with the clouds, and then he's taken this purple, and he's sort of taken the purple and he's let it go all around and through the clouds. And it becomes a whole another element in the painting that at first you think it's part of the blue sky. And then you realize that, no, he's doing something different here. Maybe he's trying to illustrate some kind of movement. Maybe how that purple is moving through there and framing those clouds is to give us some kind of indication of movement of the clouds themselves through the landscape.
Perfect. Thank you, George. So at this point, I'm going to turn the discussion over to you, George, to discuss the topic of where the Baltimore art community succeeds in the DEIA space.
Well, thank you. Well, I like to sort of first talk about in terms of my own work, and then certainly we're going to go to the other panelists in terms of what their own institutions and their own work is about in terms of what's happening in Baltimore in the DI spaces with the community. So I'm a guest curator this year at the BMA and working on an exhibition of Elizabeth Telford Scott, and it's really a revisiting of a show that I did in 1998, almost 25 years ago. And the revisiting has to really do with, since that time, what I've learned and being aware of in terms of accessibility. So part of the revisiting is that the exhibition is not just at the BMA, but it will also be working with a class made up of students from Micah, Morgan, Coppin, and Johns Hopkins. And those students will work for this year to work both at their sites and also at 4 other museums in Baltimore: the Peel, the Reginald Lewis, the Walters, and the Maryland Center for History and Culture. And so they'll be taking this community initiative throughout Baltimore in connection with Elizabeth Scott's work. And that is really a different way of imagining how an exhibition may play out. But this time the revisiting has a lot to do with how people with disabilities can perhaps access and have better understanding and being more welcoming and participating in a project. So a part of that is that the class, the exhibition development seminar class that these 20 students from these 4 schools are working on this year, actually have accessibility mentors working with them. So everything they do there and everything I do at the museum is through a disability lens in what they're creating and proposing at the 8 sites and at the museum. So that's a really just something new for me, something I've been learning since my volunteer work with Arc and getting to work with artists and staff at Make Studio and other places in Baltimore with artists with disabilities. So that's a big shift for me and my own work as a curator doing this project as a guest curator at the BMA, working with these other institutions. So So I want to sort of shift to Tyrone, who, as we know, is one of the make artists, make studio artist, and we've heard, Tyrone, you talk about your interest in the work that you chose. But I guess I wanted to ask if you could talk about what is your involvement in Make Studio and any community initiatives that they have.
Okay. At Make Studio, you can create something whatever you want, like celebrity murals, pop culture work, and music inspiration. It's all about your mind and imagination. You can express it to your art. Everybody at Make Studio has their own way of expression, sometimes direct, and sometimes mumbling or swinging their arms, stuck in their own world, but that's okay. They can all still be there because Make Studio is being yourself. Not people telling you you can't. Artists feel support from staff and other artists. There is no shame is asking for support. We just were a part of Artscape. It is a fun opportunity and we are glad it's back. Over the years, we invite everybody to express themselves together, making meals and building things together with people there. A big community, it helps others understand people with disability. We all have mental health challenges and insecurities. Respect us for who we are, get to know us, and let go of stereotypes about disability. That's it.
Thank you, Tyrone. It's great to hear. I didn't know that now you're part of Artscape in terms of what you're doing, reaching out into the community and throughout Baltimore City. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And Schroeder, in terms of the James E. Lewis Museum at Morgan State, we maybe could talk about us what's happening there in terms of the DEI spaces that you have.
Sure. I have to apologize. I forgot to give my descriptions early on. My pronouns are he, him. I'm wearing a blue and white striped shirt. I am light brown in color. I have dark glasses and a shaved head. So that's my intro. At JELMA, James E. Lewis Museum of Art, we have multiple exhibits going on right now. The largest exhibit is a show called Black Artists of DC. That is the name of the group out of Washington, DC. And this show features works by about 40 different artists. The mediums include painting, ceramics, digital art, a video, watercolor, textiles, and sculpture. This show will be up until December 8. We also have an exhibit coming in called Depths of Beauty. This is an experimental installation with paintings and sound by Deborah Patterson and Emmett Freeman. That show will be in our atrium in November, from October into November. We also have what I call the guest artist corner. This is literally a corner. It is 8 foot by 10 foot with 13-foot ceilings. And from time to time, I invite an artist to come in and use this space. The current artist will be Guy Jones. He was a former instructor at Morgan University in the art department, and his works are still lifes. They're paintings. They're small scale paintings that'll be on exhibit.
Thank you. And I've just myself found out about the installation you were talking about with the paintings and the soundscape that goes along with it. It sounds fascinating in terms of bringing other senses involved with the visual arts. Yeah, thank you for reminding us of that.
Thank you.
And Rhea, I know you've worn many hats yourself in terms of the Baltimore and the DC community, working in different spaces and creating your own at the Black Artist Research Space. Tell us what's happening in your world.
Definitely. So for the past 2 years, BARS, Black Artist Research Space, programmed and activated a brick and mortar kind of residency in the Promo Arts District. And there it was, just a really dynamic artist community. But I think bars brings a different level of engagement, offering yoga twice a month, where we worked with a collective that again offers free yoga to the Baltimore community in different artist spaces. Literally, their name is Free Baltimore Yoga. And so we were a host site for them for about 6 months. We've had a number of panel discussions with artists from the community as well as filmmakers. We hosted a few film screenings in the winter of last year that added an additional layer to the artwork and to the artistic experience. And then most recently, we've reemerged as a nomadic collective. And we've recently offered two free workshops to the communities. Oftentimes our workshops are free or for a small honorarium that contributes towards our artists. And we held a photography workshop where we offered free headshots and family portraits as presented by Faith Couch, photographers Faith Couch and Darius Fox. And then we recently held a cyanotype workshop at the Nomu Nomu art space here in Baltimore and offered the full range of, from start to finish, how do you cyanotype? And then participants were able to walk away with 2 of their own cyanotypes. So really, we're thinking about more engagement in the community by way of programs.
Well, great, thank you. Yeah, it's wonderful to hear in terms of these partnerships and collaborations you're doing, especially I think down in the Bromo Arts District. And I know we've talked about perhaps getting ARC involved and visiting your spaces and talking about what you're doing there. So thank you very much for that. Yeah. So sort of to close out our event at this point, Chris and I, along with the panel, wanted to really go back to this question of how do we continue to bridge disability in the arts community, right? Here in Baltimore, right? And Chris, I know you wanted to talk first, perhaps before the panelists do, about how our partnership came to be, and then we can have our panel describe their own contributions to this movement.
Absolutely. Thank you, George. So George came into our lives pre-COVID with a personal mission to help connect our community of people with developmental disabilities that receive our services, whether they are artists themselves or not, have interest in the art world, whether that is creating or appreciating art. And that idea grew and grew and grew each year through George's connections to many of these art institutions in Baltimore. And over the years, we've had a number of artists with developmental disabilities take classes at MICA. They have done monthly visits to the BMA Walters School 33, where they not only experience art with a docent-led tour, but they also create their own artwork as part of that visit. And in addition to that, George has had a number of fellows from MICA work with several artists from the Arc Baltimore each year. And that has been absolutely wonderful. And it's a mutually beneficial experience for both the artists taking the class, but also the master's level students that are, pardon me, are looking, to open up the art world to a larger community. So I think personally that these experiences have helped many of these institutions understand the value of making their museums accessible to all. And doesn't matter who you are, that anyone and everyone can appreciate art. I just think it's important that these type of conversations keep happening so that we can keep pushing boundaries on how best to bridge these two communities. So it not only takes organizations like the Arc Baltimore that are direct service providers, but also for art institutions and community organizations to help, facilitate these type of brainstorming discussions, and then just really opening doors and figuring things out. So that's all I'm going to say, but hopefully you all have some thoughts about that as well.
Thank you, Chris, and it's a privilege to be involved with Arc, and I hope everyone who attends this Curators Night realize that they then want to come to Art and Around to actually see all this work in person and to support all the artists. Just to remind you, everyone, if this is their first time, that Art and Around, all the artists that are in it, they receive 60% of the proceeds to themselves, and 40% goes back in supporting the programming. So it's really important. We remind people that this is supporting artists with disabilities directly through the sale of their work in the show, and then of course indirectly through providing services through Arc to each of their places. So I want to perhaps maybe start the discussion about this bridging about disability in the arts community with Tyrone. Tyrone, I was really happy to hear you talk about this recent experience in terms of Artscape, in terms of Make Studio and the artists being involved in there. I mean, is that it? What is the importance of that in terms of this bridge we're talking about between the different communities in Baltimore, between people who have disabilities and the larger arts community? Was that an experience that is something that will continue, or that you as an artist benefited from?
Yes, it is. And it is great for people who are learning to open up more, just making art, and it's all about having fun.
Do you see other sort of possibilities in Baltimore, either institutions or exhibitions that would enable people with disabilities to have more access and being more, empowered as artists?
Yes, it really do.
Mm-hmm. Because I've seen your work. I think I've seen your work down at a Maryland Art Place at Hotel Indigo, that they have a program there with you all.
Yes, I remember.
Well, it's good to know that other organizations like Maryland Art Place, are partnering and Artscape with Make Studio, and that your work as an artist gets out there also, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of Rhea and Schroeder, I mean, how do you help answer this question of how do we continue to bridge this between these communities? Or maybe you don't see that gap. That's the kind of thing I think that in the arts community, that perhaps some people don't see that gap, or once they see it, then they figure out how to bridge it.
I'd have to say for JELMA, because we are a university-based museum, our primary audience is the university, students and faculty, but we're also open to the community. So it goes with that saying, all politics are local. I'm personally experiencing two things. I have a mother who is incapacitated physically, so I'm very aware of movement and motion. In a museum sense, that makes me sensitive to something very basic, like how do you provide a space for people who cannot stand a long time walking through galleries? Do you provide settees, or a place where they can just stall and sit down for a minute to rest? Also, personally, I was in daycare with a deaf boy. And as I reflect on that now, I remember that Billy couldn't hear, but we played together. So what is it that we did? How did we communicate? And today, now as a grown man, I realize that the hearing community, unless they reveal themselves, you may be in close proximity of somebody who's deaf, and you may not know it. So you have to be sensitive to people's abilities in different ways, either with it, whether it's hearing or visual or physical or developmental. And in our case with Jelma, we would approach us on a case-by-case basis, because although we're a museum, we are 4 staff people. So we would have to accommodate visitors as they appear to us.
Thank you. I love when people share. I mean, the more you get to know people, you get to understand all these connections to the different various communities. So I thank you for sharing in terms of this, personally, in terms of your childhood friend and your mom. It's interesting in terms of the project I'm doing at the museum as a guest curator. Like, one of the things you pointed out, like the original show I did 25 years ago, there wasn't a bench or chair in sight. You know, and 4,000 square.
You don't pay attention if you're young and you don't need it.
4,000